And WION's business editor Sumit Chaturvedi is presently in Davos. He's been getting us all the updates from there, and he earlier caught up with India's Petroleum Minister, Hardeep Singh Puri, and this is what he had to say.
World Economic Forum's Annual Summit has kicked off in Davos. It is for the first time in 2 years. It is happening in person. India is also having a contingent there, and we are today joined by Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, India's Petroleum Minister, who is leading that contingent here. So thanks for talking to us. First of all, how have you been your stay in WEF? How discussions, what were they? And how have you now tried to sell India, or as far as energy is concerned, what discussions have taken place with investors and other stakeholders?
Forum's major preoccupation is with the number of crises which are in motion. There is at the center of it, I would say, an energy crisis. And that energy crisis is anchored in the fact that if you have oil at $110 plus per barrel, then that's a worrying sign, not just for recession in the industrialized democracies, in those economies, but even in developing countries. You see what's happened in countries around India. But more than that, I think even the United States is facing the highest levels of inflation experienced in the last 50 years. The United Kingdom has the steepest fall in living standards. Now, navigating through this crisis, and you have to do it without exacerbating and accelerating the other crises, because you want to be able to do it. You also want to be able to make the transition because of climate change factors. You also want to make sure that there's an abundant supply of food, so fertilizer prices become important. So you have to navigate all these.
And also you mentioned one important thing. We just read that $110 barrel oil is worse than inflation. Can you elaborate on this?
No, I did mention it, and I think I'm not the only one saying it. If oil remains at over $110 a barrel, you're not just looking at inflation. A lot of people have started using the word in the global context of recession with a capital R. I said the United States has the highest levels of inflation in 50 years. Other industrial democracies are facing, one in particular, steepest decline in living standards since the Second World War. So something has to give. Because if you do go in, if the global economy does go into recession, what are you going to face? You're going to face all the economic recovery post-COVID will be lost. But more than that, if the global economy goes into free fall, the demand for oil will go down. That's another way of solving the problem. And prices will come down when there's no demand. So I think all of us who are stakeholders in the international community, into the economic exchanges, into the global system, the multilateral system, we need to seriously introspect. A lot of things have to be done. Oil price is not high because there's a shortage of oil. I want to correct that. Oil prices are high because the amount of oil released into the market is less than the demand which is there. And that is what keeps the prices high. Now, there are other factors. There wasn't enough investment in X, Y, or Z. But be that as it may, you can go on arguing as to what the causation for the inflation is. You can go on arguing. Somebody may turn around and say, well, it's the trillions of dollars of stimulus or the stimuli released into the global economy, which is... It doesn't matter. You will be able to deal with all that, but you cannot sustain global economic recovery if oil is at $110 a barrel.
Also, we just happened to see a crisis in Sri Lanka. We helped the neighbor, we helped them fetch fuel and all. So going forward, need be we can give them more fuel. What's from your side?
Well, let's be very clear. The Sri Lankan crisis has causation brought about by domestic factors. But once an economy is in crisis, then the price of fuel and the availability of fuel become. You have to pay for the fuel. So today we are supplying to Sri Lanka. My oil companies have delivered vast amounts of energy to Sri Lanka. We are doing it against government-to-government line of credit. I think about $2 billion or so. And we are always ready to help anyone. We supplied vaccines to, so many countries you can't even count them. We have sent other forms of assistance, medical equipment, during the pandemic. So India is a responsible member of the international community, which not only discharge its responsibilities, but as the Prime Minister has shown, India is willing to assume even greater obligations when it comes to crises like these.
You also said that India is going to lead the world in hydrogen, green hydrogen. What makes you confident?
Green hydrogen is a high priority. We are doing it in mission mode. The Honorable Prime Minister's announcement from the ramparts of the Red Fort on 15th August 2021. And my oil companies are pursuing green hydrogen. We are in touch with the electrolyzer manufacturers. We have to bring the cost of power down, which we are doing in ingenious ways. We are getting our refineries to see what are the further steps they can take to manufacture green hydrogen. And I completely share the views of those like the US Energy Secretary who talk about 1 kilogram for $1 for 10 years. But more than that, I think that consciousness is keeping. But green hydrogen is not the only area. Look at our biofuel blending. We've come from 1.4% in 2014 to 10% now, and we are going to take it to 20% biofuel blending, not by 2030, but we brought the target date to 2025. Gas, the mix from 6 to 15%, ethanol blending 20%, electric vehicles, electric charging station. So India is on the move, and India is being able to make that transition at a time when it is looking after the needs of this large and growing population and the economy firing on all 6 cylinders.
About the Russia crisis, well, we saw that has been unfolding since February of this year. Fuel is clearly the top focus. Going forward, how do you see the prices at $110 to a barrel going forward if they move up further? What is India's strategy as far as the fuel prices and the crisis is concerned?
Insofar as international prices are concerned, I think the realization will sooner rather than later, including to the producing countries, that if you keep oil at 110, then you are undermining economic recovery. I think everyone as a stakeholder needs to introspect in a serious way and say how you can contribute to easing. First of all, there has to be a lowering of tensions. There has to be a cessation of hostilities. And on top of that, you need to deal with these multiple crises which are underway.
Fine, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for talking to us, to the viewers of WION, and wish you all the very best and very good stay here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.